Hello and welcome to the second video in this series on how you get started with C#. Today we're going to see what variables is and why they are so essential when we program. And actually I could not imagine a program running without any variables, because then we could not save any information to our memory in the computer, because that's basically what variables is. It allows us to store information inside the memory of our computer so that we can reuse it again and pick it out of the memory every time we need to edit something. But let's jump to Visual Studio, where I have a console app open so we can test out something. So as we saw in the last video, we now know two data types like int and strings and bools. So I'll not cover that in this video, but what I will do is to play around with some variables so that you can see how they behave, and then we're going to display the values in the console. And if you're brand new to developing in Visual Studio, then we're going to run the application up here where it says variables console app, and that's because it's the name of the application I created. So when we click this, we actually get an error, and that's because I commented out the console write line, because right now it have nothing to execute. So if we uncomment this, this is actually a comment, so it's going to be a comment. But if we uncomment it and we run the application again, we can now see that we get this console, and inside the console we get the hello world, just as we print in the console. And in here we get some extra text that we don't have to care about. So let's close this, and I will just comment this out again because we don't need that right now. And let's go and declare some variables. So for example, we say int, and we know from the last video that this is a number, actually a whole number that we need to insert. Then we give the variable a name. So we could, for example, say age, and then say that we are 50 years old. So now if we go and copy and paste this console write line, we can go and say that we want the age to be displayed. So let's run this as a console app. And now you can see we get our variable displayed in the console. But let's go and create some more variables. So let's say a string is one of the most common ones beside the integer. And let's say we want to have a name, and this name could be John. We have to close off again the line, and let's go and copy and paste this again so that we get the name. So now it should display an age and a name on their separate lines, because this is a write line. So let's go and test this out, and as we can see it says 50 and it says John. Another way to declare a variable could be like if we say we want an int, and this should be a year, and then we can close it off already. So right now it doesn't have any value at all. It just have a space in the memory, and this is actually what we call to declare a variable. And it's just when we say that what data type it is and what name it is. But when we like age give it a value, then we initialize this variable. So if we look at our year again, we declare it, and then we can say year and put it equal to 2023. So again, in this line we declare it, and in this line we initialize it. And when you have already declared it once, you do not have to specify the data type again, or actually should not do it, because let's try and scroll down to the bottom and try to create the variable again, like this. And as you can see, we get this red line under the year, and that's because it says that a local variable or function named year is already defined in this scope. And what that means is basically if we try to, let's say that we try to create two if statements, we just set them to true. And I know this is actually out of scope for this video, but sooner or later you will bump into if statements. And basically what it means is that if something is true, then it will execute the code that is inside. So it's not that they are that complicated, and I set it to true, so we will always execute what's inside. And this is just to show you that you can have int and year 2 times on one page, but it depends on which scope you're inside. And don't worry if it doesn't make sense right now, you will learn it sooner or later, because that's also a very important thing in programming. But let's copy and paste this one more time. And now we can actually take this year variable and let's put it inside our if statement, and then let's remove this one that we created at the top. So now you can see the arrows are gone and we can actually do this. So this was just to show you that we can declare variables with the same name, but it depends on where in the code it is. And don't worry if you don't understand this, you will learn it on your programming journey at some point. We also have a special data type, and that should actually have been in the last video, but I will just talk about it in this video so that we have some extra stuff that we can do. And what that is that we have a const variable, and this would be called a double. It could be anything, but because I'm using pi as an example, it will be 3.14. And what is special when we say that it's a const is that we cannot edit this value. And when we type the name of the variable in uppercase, then it means that this is a constant. And now let's, for example, say that we want to change the name John. So what we will do is to say name, and we want to change it to Simon. And let's take the pi, and we want to change this to 5.00. And as you can see, we get an error when it's a const, and we do not get an error when it's a name, because this name variable is just a string. But we could also make it a const, and then we will get the same error. So let's remove that, and we don't want to change the pi value. And now, as you can see, we changed the name to Simon. So let's try and copy and paste this console write line just like this. So when the variable was named John, then it should display John, and when we change it later on, it should display Simon because we changed it to that. So let's run the console, and as you can see now, we have the year, and then we have John, and then Simon. So I think that's all for this video, because variables are pretty simple to deal with. And please like the video if you liked it, and subscribe to my channel, and else I'll see you in the next video.